This is the OTP. I'm Amie Wells, and I am joined by Will Boling from Titans Radio. We have been rolling through Titans training camp, of course, and today, the greatest day of the year, the first day in pads. Will, I feel like we've been waiting for it for an eternity.
Yeah.
Something about the season ends and you kind of get a break and you're like, oh, okay, I'm ready for football again. And then we do all the drafty things and then they come back, but they're not really back because we can't put pads on.
Right.
So finally, this team is in pads. It felt good. It was hot. It was loud. It was a football practice.
It was.
What did you notice?
Well, first of all, I just think the sound of pads popping, right? It is a nice sound. It means football is closer. It means we're within a couple of weeks of preseason game one. I think that's the first thing, was that term you used, real football. Mm-hmm. We heard that from Peter Skronsky after practice today. We heard it from Brian Callahan in the conversations we've had with him and his meeting with the media before practice. Real football continues to really be the phrase, but I think you notice the competitiveness and the energy levels going up. I think you saw early in the practice the defense setting the tone a little bit. I think you saw the offense start to match that towards the middle of practice. Then I thought you saw the defense have a really strong finish to practice and creating some turnovers. So you want that in any practice. You want ebbs and flows. You don't want just one side of the ball to totally dominate. And I thought the energy level was there. I thought the level of physicality, both from receivers and DBs, O-line and D-line, really good to watch. And you could tell those guys were very excited to play real football again today.
They talk all the time about how practice without pads is really skewed in favor of the offense, because obviously they're the ones who are able to complete passes and do all of these things. And if you can't hit them, that's only really half of a football game there. So do you think the defense had such a strong day today because they've been itching for this day to come?
I think a little bit. And I think, too, you have a lot of competition in the front seven especially. And when you have a new pass rusher in Draymond Jones who has a lot to prove and feels like he, with the other part of that defensive line, is not just there to get around the pocket, but to collapse the pocket. And I think you saw that level of physicality, that level of aggression, not just to get upfield and getting after the passer, but you saw that in collapsing the pocket, which also in turn helped stop the run as well. So I think you did see that, and that's the way that Mike Bergonzi, Chad Brinker, and Brian Callahan have really tried to intentionally build this roster. But I'm looking at these pass rushers and inside linebackers with a lot of opportunity. And you look at a guy like Femi Oladejo, who's in for his first padded practice, and in one-on-ones maybe it struggles to find that second move, kind of the change up to his fastball. But he is showing up so much more for me in team periods, actually, where I think Femi has been really disruptive. I think he's forced Cam Ward off of his spot a little bit, and I think that's a really encouraging sign for him early. And James Williams, I know we talked about him over the weekend at the open practice with Coach Mack. That's a guy that the inside linebacker position is so difficult to evaluate until the pads come on. And until you can really take guys to the ground, we're still not getting 100% of that evaluation process. But I did think that there was a level of, finally, we've heard about this remade offensive line. We've heard about Dan Moore and JC Latham. It's time to remember that the D-line can make some noise as well. And I thought that front seven really showed up today.
Femi Oladejo is such an interesting guy because we have to remember he's relatively new to this outside position where he is right now. And it's interesting because it feels like there's only so much you can do from like a conceptual stance. Like you can know what you're supposed to do. You can understand the rules of what your position requires. And he says moving from middle linebacker outside is actually easier because as a middle linebacker, you've got to know what everybody's doing anyway. But what's interesting is that there's still something different about actually executing it and being able to go 100%. I can be really good at something if I'm only allowed to go like 50, 60%. But if I have to complete the motion, complete what I'm being asked to do, I mean, there's more steps there, obviously. So watching him evolve from, okay, I've done this a couple times in college. Now I'm doing it at the next level. I need to understand what this defense is asking me to do. I can map it out, walk it through, but now I have to actually complete what I'm being asked to do. Watching that progression is, I think, something that's going to be really fun for us to watch as he continues through training camp.
I think so, too. And I think for a guy that has never had an offseason as an edge rusher.
Yeah.
There's a lot to learn, but there's a lot of growth and ceiling and potential there. I think the deployment of the way Denard Wilson and this Titans defense can use Femi Oladejo and the skills that he had as an inside linebacker at UCLA, he hasn't just forgotten. Mm-hmm. And I think there are elements of him dropping back in coverage, him being able to get around the edge. Because for me, he is kind of the speedier, more fast twitch, kind of quick guy around the edge. And if the other 3 guys or 4 guys up front that he's with are there to collapse the pocket, well, how much does Femi Oladejo benefit from that by just running into the quarterback? And I think that's where Femi Oladejo getting the privilege of playing with T'Vondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons, and Sebastian Joseph Day, who I thought had a really good practice today and was really active. I think there's a bet being made, a gamble being made by this organization in that there are some edge rushers who can go from good to great with the help of Jeffrey Simmons and T'Vondre Sweat. If we're collapsing the pocket and forcing the quarterback off of his spot, let's just run him into Femi, who's on the edge, who is containing that pocket as well. So it's going to be really fun. It feels to me, Amie, like he's kind of like a pitcher that has a really good fastball, kind of that relief pitcher that's got to learn, hey, if I had a changeup, if I had a slider that I can drop in there, how much better does that make my fastball? If I make this lineman have to be ready for me to change speeds, well, then if I go full speed and go fastball, right? Like, then how much tougher is my fastball? So he's learning those things in real time. He's worked with rush doctors and things like that and pass rush summits here over the course of the offseason. But I really think the sky's the limit for him. I think we're going to see the best of him as the season goes. And I can't wait to watch that process unfold.
When we talk about defensive backs, is there anybody that's catching your attention more than Kevin Winston Jr.? I literally wrote on my notes, I can't show you because it might have a curse word on it, but it says he is not messing around.
He's not.
Like, it's crazy. He's everywhere, all over the field, all the time. And he just looks like he's having a good time.
He is. And I remember talking with people back before this break, back before training camp and in mandatory minicamp and OTAs. He is the kind of student that is intently watching and observing everything in practice when he's not on the field. There are players that are there getting water, talking with their teammates, maybe just looking at the sky, trying to figure out what clouds are above them. Then there are guys who are so locked in and taking those mental reps and understanding, all right, this is what I would do here. Oh, I wouldn't have thought about that, but I liked what Xavier Woods did right there. So I'm going to remember that once my time comes. And you talk to anybody around this organization, and Kevin Winston Jr. is that. He is a student of the game. He is someone I think they have a lot of hope for. I think of Kevin Winston Jr., Amie, similarly to the way Amani Hooker carved out a role for himself as a rookie here in 2019. Mm-hmm. And I think you talk about 3rd-round picks, 4th-round picks, kind of in that meat of the draft. You want those guys to have a role to play as rookies and have an assignment. And whatever that is for Kevin Winston Jr., I think remains to be seen. Whether that's, hey, you're a tight end stopper, or hey, in a big nickel set, you're the guy coming in on 3rd downs that we're going to rely on. That was Amani's role early in his Titans career. He was the 3rd down big nickel. I'm taking away the bigger slot receivers. But I think in today's NFL where nickel packages are kind of your base defense, Kevin Winston Jr. has a role to play in 2025 for this Tennessee Titans team. And when you're a role player as a rookie, maybe you're less likely to run into a rookie wall as well in your first season. You're implementing things, you're ascending, you're growing towards maybe a starting position, but the early returns are really, really good. He looks very confident and really strong in that defense.
All right, so defense had a overall really good day today. Mm-hmm. This summer, SeatGeek has your ticket to the best live concerts in Nashville at Nissan Stadium. SeatGeek has the best seat, your seat, for an unforgettable summer. From rock royalty to rap superstars, R&B to country, find it all on SeatGeek, the official ticketing partner of Nissan Stadium. Little Caesars is the official pizza partner of your Tennessee Titans. Download the Little Caesars app and get your favorites delivered today. Delivery fees apply. Now, back to the OTP. How important is the way the offense responds tomorrow going to be?
That has been the thing I'm most looking forward to is what happens the first time Cam Ward has a couple of picks. And the interceptions were case-by-case basis. There's some miscommunication on, hey, an all-out blitz is here. I've got Chikakonko to my left. You could already see some of the dialogue happening between Cam and Chig to say, hey, I want you to sit and kind of pull back a little bit. Just give me a hot read there when I've got 7 or 8 blitzers. Peter Skronsky said after practice today, that was as much pressure as the offense had seen from Denard Wilson all offseason. Said that was as much as he kind of brought it at us. So I'll be really interested to just kind of hear more about the dialogue between Cam and his receivers. I mean, we host our morning show here at 6, and he's beating us to the facility because according to what we've heard and according to coaches, he's here at 5:30 with a lot of guys watching film. So, they'll get a lot of that corrected. And I think the conversations between Cam, his wide receivers, the veterans, and the rookies, I think have been really positive, and I'm excited to see how they bounce back.
It's been really fun to watch Calvin Ridley throughout this camp. He's had a phenomenal camp, and I think a lot of that is watching him not only just do what he does on the field, because we saw some of that last year,
sure,
what he's able to do, what a just freak athlete he is, but watching him step into a leadership role even more than we did last year, seeing the way he's working with some of the other receivers in that room, but also working with Cam Ward, helping him figure out what's going on, working with all the guys on the offense to bring that together. That has really struck me throughout camp. And I'm sure that in this moment, after a day like today, where they got some wins, but they got some losses too, does he then step up and say, listen, guys, these are the areas where we need to get it together?
I think so. And, talking with Calvin last week, he used the words unusual about Cam Ward's timing. Like he is so interested and so, I think, impressed by how quickly Cam has shown a veteran level of throwing with anticipation. I asked him about that. Like, what makes Cam a little bit different? And Calvin said, it's his timing. It's the fact that he knows where to go with the football. He's on time when he needs to go there. You're not seeing the double clutches, the waiting. And I'm hearing Coach Mack in the back of my head saying, throw it every single time. But I think you are getting a locked-in Calvin Ridley. And that's not to say that he wasn't last year, but I think there is a comfort level of being in the same place for a second straight offseason, in understanding, how I talk to certain players on this team, the relationship I have, with Chimere Dike and Elikai Manor, who are sponges with everything he is saying. But I think you really are seeing Calvin on good plays and bad plays, kind of like we're talking about with Kevin Winston Jr. Be really engaged with these young guys, understanding how he has a role as another wide receiver coach to really step up and give his wisdom. I've been really impressed. You can tell it is a night and day difference from week 2 of training camp 2024 to week 2 of training camp 2025, how big of a role Calvin Ridley is playing in this offense.
Well, and there's been a lot of change within that room. Since training camp began, we've seen Colton Dowell waived. We've seen Matt Landers added to this team. We've seen Traylon Burks suffer an injury at the Nissan Stadium practice on Saturday. He had a collarbone injury. He was waived injured. And then the Titans signed Ramel Keaton from Tennessee. And so with all of that change, with some new people within that room, there's a need for consistency. And some of that comes from the veteran leadership of a Calvin Ridley and a Tyler Lockett, too.
100%. And by my last count, 45 of the 91 players on this team right now are first or second year players.
Wow.
There are new draft picks. There are undrafteds. There are guys from last year's draft class that are going to need to play a role. There's no time for anybody to be young, to be rookies, to be second year players. We need everybody to pitch in and become veterans on the fly. I think the joint practices are going to be really interesting for those wide receivers, because you talk about how a defense sees schemes from your offense over and over and over. They're sitting on certain things. Cody Barton said that last week when he picked off Cam Ward for the first time in training camp. He said, he got me on that yesterday. And so I actually was in an area I wasn't supposed to be, but I was waiting on it because I knew he wanted it. Like, I don't think Tampa is going to come with that level of knowledge for that first practice. You know, the Atlanta Falcons, when we see them, are not going to have the knowledge of, hey, what did Cam do to me yesterday that I can try to get him back on that first time they hit the field. So that's what I'm really interested in with these wide receivers is how do you face a new opponent who doesn't know your tendencies as well? You know, for some of these younger guys like a Bryce Oliver who doesn't have as much NFL game film, for an Xavier Restrepo looking to earn his stripes, and I thought had a really good day today.
Yep.
For the first day of padded practice is really his best day maybe of the offseason. There are opportunities there against DBs who don't know you, and it's mano-y-mano, me against you. Let's do it. That's the fun of training camp and the competition that we're having right now.
Let's talk offensive line here because they are another group that benefits probably the most from putting pads on. What did you see out of that group, and was it what you expected to see on day one of pads?
I'll tell you what I saw from two guys in particular. Peter Skoronski and JC Latham were excellent in one-on-ones. And Peter Skoronski kind of downplayed that a little bit when the media talked to him afterwards, said, yeah, there were some ups and downs. They kind of got us in team periods. But I think Peter Skoronski's ready for a really big year 3 jump. And I think you look at a lot of his numbers last season. Pro Football Focus loved him, said he was the best pass protector from week 12 on in the NFL of guards last season. I think you look at JC Latham as a slimmed down version of himself. Jeffrey Simmons was raving about him to us post-practice saying, I was telling him, you look comfortable. And Jeffrey Simmons doesn't just hand out compliments to offensive linemen unless he really means them. And I thought that was a really good note post-practice. But those two in particular caught my eye on the one-on-ones. I thought they were good. Kevin Zeitler, after maybe losing an early rep to Jeffrey Simmons in one-on-ones, came back and bounced back really well in a second try against Jeff. And I know those two have been talking about how Kevin has blocked Jeff in the past, how Jeff has tried to get past Kevin in the past and all of those things. But I think in the run game period early, we saw the offensive line have some challenges. Talking to my teammate Ramon Foster on our show 104.5 The Zone and Ramon and Will, he made the point of like, yeah, but the defense knows we're running. Like, right? Like it's that run period. It's the predictability of it. And you don't know what the defense is doing, but they know what you're doing. I think as a whole, those guys were glad to be physical again. They were glad to really have something to hold on to, like you mentioned. I mean, they're the ones in the offense that benefit the most from the pads going on. And I thought they held their own. I thought they were really maybe the bright spot for the offense in a day that was otherwise won by the defense.
I had the opportunity to talk to JC Latham after practice today, and I'm going to be honest, I had every intention of talking to him about just like his physical change, how he got prepared for the season, and kind of how the football is going. And our interview took a little bit of a different turn. So check out this conversation with me and JC Latham. JC Latham, first padded practice of training camp. How long have you been waiting to put football pads back on and hit somebody?
I mean, since January 5th, honestly, when the game ended. You know what I mean? Personally, there was a lot of things I knew I had to correct. Our coaches, I think like a day or two after Christmas, we had a conversation about, my weight and a plethora of other things that I need to improve on, especially throughout the offseason. We formulated a plan, and I mean, it was rigorous. It was hard. It was tough. And every day that went by, I just knew I was getting a day closer to my goal and day to really go and seize the opportunity of my goal. So, and as a team, I know we have a lot to prove, and, we have a standard that we created since day one, and a culture that, we try to live by. And, especially throughout this practice, how I just kept picking up in the tempo, attention to detail and everything. We've been itching for all of this.
Coach Callahan said that once the pads go on, the offensive line especially can really go to work. What were you able to accomplish today that you haven't been able to accomplish leading up to this point? Yeah,
you could you start with pass pro because, playing tackle, that's a really important job. For any tackle, it's really hard to get a handle, get a fit, and pass pro when you're just in jerseys, because they're slippery, the jerseys can get wet, whatever it might be. So, when you're in the pads, you actually have a chance to really see what your hands are like. And then also, in the run game, you hear a lot of times, especially the defense, if something goes wrong or, you got to pull and you really can't fully unleash into the pull because you don't got the pads on. So you really don't know what anything looks like until you're 100% full go, full contact, and in a live situation as it was today.
Tell me about that plan that you were put on, or you put yourself on, to try and not only change your body, but just improve your game. What were some of the key cornerstones of that plan?
Yeah, key cornerstone, first and foremost, obviously having a foundation with God and my religion. That was something I wanted to root myself in. But, secondly, my nutrition. Connor, he does a great job at just making sure I'm getting exactly what I need in my body. On top of the calories, I try to have, around 2,000 calories a day, 1,000 for each meal, maybe a couple snacks in between, depending on what they are. But not just making sure that, it's calories, but you're putting the right things into your body, the right protein, the right whatever it might be, to really balance everything out and build what you're supposed to build. And then, as time went on, me and my trainer, UJ, we started building that plan with, being able to improve on my foot speed mechanic, my hand speed, me and my boxing coach, really working on hand speed, conditioning, and footwork and all that. And then talking to Bill about, just the small things that I can work on to improve. So, as the offseason went by day, we stacked and stacked and stacked to really get to where we are today.
What food are you missing the most that you haven't had in a while?
It's going to sound really, really stereotypical. I haven't had a lot of fried anything. It's like fried chicken. I love that. Haven't really had that. I've had pizza here and there, so I can't really say I missed pizza. If you make weight or you're a couple pounds under, whatever it might be, you can reward yourself with some pizza. But outside of the chicken part would definitely be something. I haven't had cheesecake. There's a cheesecake factory right down the road, and it was funny because when we first went over what I ate, and we counted the calories in an app that helps us count the calories. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I told him what I would get, and I'm not gonna say it here, but the dessert would be cheesecake. And they say, well, hey, your goal is 2,000 calories for the day, 2,000 to 2,300. A slice of cheesecake from Cheesecake Factory is probably 1,000 to 1,200. So they're like, that's a whole meal. So, you could choose which one you want to get, but you're not putting the right stuff in your body if you get that. So definitely missing out on all the desserts. You realize there's a lot of cheese and milk and whatever that might be that really builds up onto all the good food that you got to cut back on. So
you really were just not following a plan, but you were a student of what this means for you in your life. It feels like you've learned a lot about nutrition.
Absolutely. Yeah. Honestly, I know next year for sure, I want to really go down that route, not only with my nutritionist, but maybe even get a degree in that, so I really know I can assess okay, if I'm going into the day, for example, on a heavier load day, he'll load me up with carbs for the energy portion, or he'll replenish me with carbs, whatever it might be. When we're lifting, he'll make sure I have a lot of protein in my system so I can have whatever I need, whatever I lost, to gain it back. So, and then the different ways you can go about that. It is really fascinating what food can really do for your body. And you hear it all the time, especially at Alabama and here, when you lift and work out and train, as soon as you get done, if you're not putting nothing back into your body, you kind of did it for nothing. So that's definitely something I want to really get into.
When you came back for the off-season program, everyone was talking about how different your body looked, and just physically it was very impressive. Is that rewarding to you? Does that feel better to have people actually notice what it is you're doing and get some real tangible results?
Yeah, absolutely. I think positive reinforcement, is a very big deal. Not just for me, but for anybody. If you're, telling somebody hey, you're doing a great job at what you do, it puts a smile on your face. You want to keep going, and I tell, my trainers and everybody around me, acknowledge the mountains that you've climbed. You got a lot of mountains to climb, and you got to do a lot to get to this position and get to the positions that you want to be in life. And sometimes we kind of get overwhelmed with everything that's going on. And one thing that I learned throughout the off season when I got into art, I saw a lot of roses, and the artist told me, he said, just kind of a way to remind the audience to stop and smell the roses, So I kind of took that as stop and acknowledge the mountains that you've climbed. So when people kind of acknowledge that, it kind of just gives me that mental refresher and that boost, I'm on the right track, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm getting acknowledged by my closest peers.
Okay, what kind of art did you get into? Tell me about this.
Yeah.
A man of the world now.
Yeah. It's a lot of different art. So Shabazz was the artist that I was purchasing some stuff from. I got some from a local art gallery as well. But the main pieces, it just sticks out to me. So I got something from, he calls it African twins. It's a symbol of good luck and something to not be messed with, especially in their culture over there in Africa. So that was something that I put right in front of my house when you walk in. And then there was one. He had a kind of a phase where he did a lot of paintings with no face. So one where it's Jay-Z, but it's no face, and he's around his peers, and you see the gold dust being sprinkled on him. And I hung that above my bedroom because I feel like that really empowered me, being a African American. That really empowered what it felt like to kind of represent my culture. So amongst a lot of other paintings, that really means a lot to me.
So you're learning about nutrition and really how to fuel your body. You're fueling your mind with art. You've incorporated boxing and this whole new routine when it comes to your fitness and how you're training. Do you feel like a very different person than you were in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I knew that would happen, of course, because, you know, it's no knock to Alabama. Alabama is a grind. It's 24/7, go, go, go. You know, I came to realize when I was there that time is a man-made construct that, you know, when you're at Alabama, it doesn't matter. You know, I remember days where, you know, we start at 7 o'clock in the morning, we wouldn't be back till 11:30 at night. So, you know, it'd be a long day. So you had to kind of just forget about the time and just get to work, you know. And I knew once I got to the NFL, especially the offseason, official offseason, I would have time to kind of figure myself out, my interests, what I like to do. You have a couple, you know, you got a 3-week period before the season starts, or summer training starts at Alabama. But, I mean, their program is held to such a high standard for the college level. You don't really have a lot of time. Like for me, I was able to not only go into art, but, you know, travel to like Napa Valley to get into wine, you know? So like being able to have that experience as well, you really wouldn't have the opportunity like that in college, really anywhere. So having that chance here in the NFL, I'm really grateful for.
You think feeding into yourself as a human, as like a man, is making you a better football player?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really important to, you know, my trainer kind of has to remind me of this too, because I get so locked in on, hey, I want to do this and that, where he tells you like, hey, take a mental break. You know, and, you know, Bill talks to me about this too, because I've been boxing and doing all my explosive movement workouts, whatever it might be, you know, since January. So when we ended OTAs, I literally had a Airbnb book to go down to Dallas and train with Duke like the next day after OTAs ended. And all of them were like, hey, just, you know, take a couple of days off, give your mind some time to rest, your body some time to heal, and really, you know, I know you want to attack it heavy in the offseason, but be a pro and let your body heal and let your mind heal. So I think dabbling into your interests and rewarding yourself with that as such kind of definitely helps you be mentally refreshed to go out there and perform.
Well, JC Latham, we're excited to watch you work as training camp unfolds. Thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here.
Hey, Titans fans, with a Kroger Boost membership, you'll score big with double fuel points, free delivery, and lots more. Go to Kroger.com/boost for details. Kroger, the official grocer of the Tennessee Titans. Tighten up. Home is the forefront of all we do. It's why we're so committed to caring for the places and spaces in which we work and live. Ashley, the official furniture provider of the Tennessee Titans. Now, back to the OTP. He is a Renaissance man.
Wow.
Will, are you surprised? You don't hear that from the big guys very often.
No, you don't. Hey, sometimes the offensive linemen, they grow in the shadows. We just let them marinate. We sit them over here. We're talking to skill guys. All of a sudden, they're gaining new skills. They're learning how to be pros. That's right. That's why so many of them make good broadcasters. So not just because I host a show with one for 4 hours a morning. No, JC is really growing into his own. And you think about him, Amie, and him, the path that he's had. IMG Academy, Alabama, first-round draft pick. The guy has been a winner everywhere that he has gone. And when I look at this offensive line, it's hard not to hear Arden Key and Jeffrey Simmons on the defensive line.
They're very loud.
Yes. Femi Oladejo is stepping into that kind of role. The offensive line, you don't often hear chirps back. You don't hear things from their side. Cam Ward's going to help that. First of all, I think JC Latham is an emerging leader on this football team, offense and defense. And I think last year he took ownership of some things that he liked. I think he took some ownership of some things that he maybe didn't like from his rookie season. I'm really expecting a big year for him and playing next to Kevin Zeitler, one of the best to do it. And if he makes 15 starts again this year, that'll be 10 straight seasons of 15-plus starts for Zeitler. Wow. What a wealth of experience to have next to you, and what an opportunity this offensive line has to really take a step forward this year.
Well, there's more practice on the way. Tell me what you're going to be watching tomorrow when the Titans are back in pads at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park at 8 o'clock in the morning to try and beat this heat.
Yeah, that's right. I think I'm just watching how the offense bounced back. I think Cam Ward, after a 3-interception day, and again, not all of those totally on him. Some good defensive plays, some miscommunications, a bad throw, but I think ultimately what you love about Cam Ward is his short memory and his ability to have the utmost confidence in himself. And, you know, the answer that he had after mandatory minicamp when he was asked, what's your confidence level as an NFL quarterback? And he just said 10 and went on to the next question, right? He knows how to get the point across quickly. And there is, I can promise you, There is nothing that can happen on that practice field that's going to make that number go any lower than a 10. So how does that manifest itself? How does that look? Does Cam Ward take some of the same gambles? Does he have a conversation with some of his wide receiver to say, hey, I need you to do this instead. I need you to sit here if there's pressure, if I'm hot and got to get rid of the football quickly. I think that's what I'm watching most tomorrow.
Well, we are looking forward to it. The Titans have a couple more training camp practices before they head on the road. They're going to Tampa. They're going to Atlanta. It's going to be a wild time, but we're going to have it all right here on the OTP. So for Will Boling, I'm Amie Wells, and this has been the official Titans podcast, better known as the OTP.